Musaigwa, you were correct. True to your prediction, Mthuli is driving the bus. One day, a madman might drive this bus called Zimbabwe. So Musaigwa, a madman is driving this bus called Zimbabwe. And the madman is running over people in his bus. And he doesn't care. Nyasha Jambe from Gutu was run over. Bonelli Nue from Kwekwe was run over. He was shocked when 6 people were killed in downtown Harare. Zaibu, Mthuli is driving the bus. And he wrote about them, the 6 people. And today, just for a short period of time, I think I'm going to put a human face so that the 6 people do not become just a statistic. They become people with lives and families. The 6 people. Magaisa wrote about them in one of his BSRs. One of them, the youngest, challenged Tauro, 20 years of age, from Chitamba farm in Mazoe. The second one, Chelas Chikandira, 21, number 601, New Muzinda Flats, Heathcliff. The third one, Robert Joao, aged 26, of house number 1675, Overspew, Epworth. The fourth one, Ishmael Kumire, and this one I knew personally. Ishmael Kumire, 41, from number 3 set Kotniselu Road in Valentine Park. Mama Kodi, he came from Matope village in Mawanga Ward 2, and he left behind 4 children, and one of them is my daughter's best friend. The 50th person gave him Tin Charles, 45, of 7 St. Kitts Road, number 7 St. Kitts Road, Acadia. The 6th one was Sylvia Maposa, aged 53, of 619 Southway Prospect in Waterfalls.
Here on this, the Free Talk. Political tensions are rising ahead of the 2023 general elections, and the record for human rights abuses in Zimbabwe is reported by non-governmental organizations is also on the rise. Now, just a few weeks ago, we saw the implosion of political violence taking place in Nyatsime in Chitungwiza after the brutal and cruel murder of Zimbabwe-Moreblessing Ali turned political. Homes were destroyed. Number of political leaders, including Honorable Member Job Sikala, Godfrey Stole, and 12 others have since been arrested and are being held in custody and have been denied bail. Now, this is the state of human rights in Zimbabwe. And we're going to be discussing this on this, the Free Talk. And thank you very much for joining us. I'm your host, Dara Blessed Mtlanga, as always. Just join us after this small break where we listen to this video about a ZANU-PF supporter in Gokwe telling people that as they go to vote, they should declare illiteracy. And any headman who is not of ZANU-PF or does not believe in ZANU-PF should immediately vacate that seat.
Ende kana wakunovhota haugononyora. Izvi ndataura pachena nai. Ndonyaya ndakanzi nditaure pachena kuti muzive ndati takatosaina takabvuma document rakabva kuna president last week on Thursday. Ndopatakasaina izvozvo. Ende hatigoni kuzviramba because it was an order. Kuti utungamiri wemusangano izvo zvabva kuna president. Ungazviti iwo handizvidi. Ndizvo una president. Unozviramba uchiti kuti kana wazviramba utoziva kuti uri mukono. Esas. Ndizvo zvinoreva. Ende kutonga zvakunoita kunotongewa muchinzirana tsitsi muchiitirana zvakanaka nekuti mune muchiwirirana. Kana zvadhakwa zvodi zvodhakwa. Saka patira, this is the last election against opposition. Saka election yekupedzisira against opposition. Zvichaitika panapa ndo zvinoratidza kuti vanhu tichabatana. Ende kana tabatana Mwari wosekerera. Namwe yatiri kufungidzira kuti iri kuti rwisa iyi Mwari wopedza. Because vanhu mune mabatana makuita chinhu wani. Hamberi mberi ZANU-PF nekubatana pasi mhandu. Mutungamiriri anogadzwa naMwari. We have been given our president from God. Takapiwa president naMwari. Emerson Dambudzo munanga. Takatarisa zvese zvakaitika izvozvo mukafunga kuti zviri nyore, but it was successful. Zvakabudirira because Mwari ndo zvaanga akaronga. Munobala ndutaura. Munhu akaramba nenyika yaenda 208 vanhu vagutisa. Imimi vanhu imimi kune vanhu vakatovhotera MTC 208. Imimi mugerepo papa. Varipo. Ende zvaitika izvozvo mukaona kuchinzirira.
Now welcome back to this, the Free Talk, as we discuss Zimbabwe's state of human rights ahead of 2023 general elections. Now in studio, I am joined by members of the civic society, or those popularly known as NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and we're going to be having a discussion around the state of human rights in Zimbabwe ahead of the 2023 general elections, looking at the recent events that has happened. But as we do so, the Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum launched the State of Human Rights Report in Zimbabwe 2021. Now this details the human rights aspects, violations and or betterment of the political state in Zimbabwe. And I'm just going to start with one of my guests, the ZPP director, Justina Mkoko, veteran broadcaster and my lovely sister. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to this, the Free Talk.
Thank you very much, blessed. Hello, viewers.
I'm just going to ask you to just briefly unpack the state of the Human Rights Report in 2021 and what we have seen unfolding in 2022 as we go into 2023.
I think as members of the forum, we continue to be concerned about the way that the Constitution was amended. You will remember that when this Constitution came into being, we went towards a referendum. In looking at the number of clauses that were amended, I would believe that it was supposed to be taken to a referendum. It was actually amended at a time at the height of COVID-19, meaning that we did not have as many Zimbabweans participating in public hearings for us to know if people were really giving a nod to those 27 amendments or not. I think we continued to be concerned about abuses that were related to the pandemic, because somehow the pandemic had been weaponized. We saw a lot of people facing a lot of human rights abuses, either because they have been caught by a curfew, the way that they were then treated left a lot to be desired. We have been concerned about the general deterioration of civic and political rights. The issue around socio-economic rights is also one of great concern, because what we saw was that citizens were really failing to afford a single decent meal. And we continue to see them struggling with healthcare. We also see them struggling with education, where they are trying to put their children through to school. We have also noticed that the space that allows civic society to operate has shrunk significantly. You might also be aware that there are laws that are coming into place. There is a public voluntary organizations amendment bill that is being debated in Parliament. There is also a lot of talk around the patriotic bill. We hear from government that there is no patriotic bill, but the surprising thing is that when you go to social media, you will find people gloating about the work that is being done around the patriotic bill. But of greatest concern is that it seems the role of civic society is really not being understood, in the sense that we act as a watchdog in communities, and we provide a platform for government to be able to know what is happening at the local level. And I think when we look at what has recently happened, you are right that there has been a surge in, I would say, toxicity when it comes to issues, political issues, human rights. I think what happened in Nyatsime is something that is against our own culture as a people, because to call on those who are grieving to move from where they have been staying and want to mourn from, for me, is not Zimbabwean. And I think I will stop there in terms of some of the things that are of concern that we have included in the State of Human Rights report.
I'll come to you, Fortune. Fortune is a member, is a programs officer with the Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum. Now, Fortune, what would you say is currently the state of human rights in Zimbabwe, and is there any movement towards improvement as we go towards 2023?
Thank you so much, our host, for the question. Well, to summarize it, we have become a nation of angry people, full of hate. If you look at what happened in Nyatsime, the details of Moreblessing Ali when it was discovered, that kind of brutality had never been seen in Zimbabwe. And as we move towards 2023, there is no semblance of all of these things changing for the positive. When the new dispensation came into play, we were promised the sweeping reforms, among them the issue of human rights. There were various episodes and various statements in which the president himself vowed that he would improve the human rights conditions in Zimbabwe. Years later, We have seen his administration. We have seen him on other platforms as well, inciting public violence. We have seen this happening towards the March 26 elections, where we documented over 58 cases of assaults only related directly to the by-elections. And what we learned from the by-elections is that the situation is not going to get any better. The situation is indeed going to become worse. And sadly, impunity, which is the prime reason why we still have all of these things happening, is also on the rise. And civil society organizations, being watchdogs, as Justina has put it across, are being attacked left, right, and center. So really, the question is, do we have a sincere administration with the love of people at heart? Are they patriotic? Patriotic towards what? And what is the end game? And how are things going to change? All of these questions, unfortunately, we cannot answer them. But the evidence that we have in the State of Human Rights report for the year 2021 is that things are definitely going to get worse. And we might have an August 2018 episode once again. All the recipes ready for such an event to take place. And unfortunately, it seems like as a nation, we are not aware of this.
Now I'll come to you, Komegutsan Nguni, the president of the Federation of Non-Governmental Organizations. I just want your view on the state of human rights abuses or human rights in Zimbabwe. What is your prognosis and what do you see going forward in 2023?
Thank you. More blessing. When I look at this report, it could have been written and produced by CCC. It could have been. I'm not saying it was. Because this document here does not talk about human rights abuses in this country. It talks about various political positions that have been taken by CCC and the Americans and the British in their regime change agenda. And that is what intoxicates the relationship between a large segment of Zimbabwean society and some non-governmental organizations. For example, I'm glad you've talked about Moreblessing. But is Moreblessing a member of CCC? Is there a branch, a district, a political formation in Nyatsime called CCC? The answer is no. We've gone back to what used to happen 10, 15, 20 years ago, where the MDC was going into mortuaries and looking for dead bodies and claiming ownership and saying somebody's been killed by ZANU-PF so that they can mobilize fellow Zimbabweans into taking a position to say these are murderers, well, let's go and vote for MDCT. So in the case of Nyatsime, first of all, I'm really sorry that she lost her life. But did she lose her life as a human rights abuse situation? Or we're talking about somebody who was in love, dumped by some lovely girl, and murdered her. Then now we go and buy the family, pay them money to lay a claim that she suddenly becomes an MDC activist. I want to remind my colleague here, because maybe he's not as old as I am. But I remember a man who was a senior member of the MDCT, an executive member, who stabbed his wife 15 times, committed suicide in the remand prison here, and the MDCT paraded him all over the city here, celebrating his life as a hero, a freedom fighter. We remember that. Then you now go and want to claim somebody who's not even a member of CCC, who was given a stand by ZANU-PF, was a member of a ZANU-PF branch, who was given a stand was given a stand where the family built a stand by ZANU-PF. In death, you now want to claim that she's your member, and because there's an international meeting happening overseas, you now want to parade her there's a human rights abuse. That is the danger with the noble things that non-governmental organizations are supposed to do, about how they have been weaponized by the people who fund them. the people who pay for the production of this book, the people who pay the salary of my good lady, the people who fund the organization that pays him as a programs officer, and the link between those governments and CCC, MDCT, and various opposition circles. That is the problem that we have in this country, where in this book we are told ZANU-PF has been doing this, has done this, as if there's nothing that the MDC has done wrong here. But we all know, because we live in this country, that the people who were busy massacring people, I've given the example of Lenmo Jongwe, he's the one who murdered his wife and was declared a hero by the MDCT. And even I saw young ladies from MDCT screaming, he's our hero, but he had murdered a woman 15 times. But that wasn't a political reason. It was just crime of passion. Now, the biggest danger that we have for me in this country, I want to go with what he said, that we can have another August. It's possible we have another August in this country, because there is a majority of people in this country who will never accept a government of puppets, or a perception that this party does the bidding of Britain and America. They will never accept it. They would rather fight a civil war, just like they fought Ian Smith. Because you see, the MDC himself don't believe in constitutionalism. The CCC, they don't. The Supreme Court made a decision that there was an election, and that after the election, people were aggrieved by what happened in that election. They go to court. After the court process, the justices said one thing to them: give us evidence of how votes were taken away from you and given to the winner, Mnangagwa. They did not have any evidence. They started talking about things which have nothing to do with rigging.
Yeah. So,
but then let me just finish this point, because I think it's very important for me. So because of that, they refused to say they accept that Mnangagwa is constitutionally been declared the winner of the elections and the president of the state of Zimbabwe. They spent the last 4 years telling us that he is an illegitimate government, we don't recognize him, his government. So what are they saying to young people? They're telling young people that if next year when we have elections, if you don't like the victory, don't recognize Chamisa as well. And then go ahead and start doing what the MDC tried to do in the last elections, after they lost the elections. So the people who are against constitutionalism in this country are the various lawyers who are attempting to become politicians in our country. Okay. And they are a danger.
We'll come back to that. But there's this allegation that has been thrown that this report is not fair. It takes a political side, takes political lines.
Let me just put it on record that this report was not authored by CCC. This report was authored by members of the Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum. And the issues that are highlighted there are issues that we have record of from 2021. I spoke about how the Constitution has been mutilated with the amendment of 27 clauses. And I actually said, because there were so many, for me, because the Constitution came through a referendum, it would have been fair to then go back to Zimbabweans again to say, these are the changes that we want to bring to the Constitution that you voted in. And what I'm also sensing, Blessed, is that I thought we were talking about the human rights situation in 2021 based on the report that we produced, and not talking about CCC and what other political party. We are basically looking at how citizens have had their rights violated in 2021.
Regardless of political affiliation.
Yes, and can I also put it on record? We here We had heard that Moreblessing Ali, may her soul rest in peace, was in love with Pius Jamba. And it's on record in court that they were not in love. So I'm not sure where the passion thing comes in.
Yes, you can. Sure, you can. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure thing. Our interest is purely a human rights one, and if we have an appreciation of what human rights is in terms of its definition, we then realize that the issues that are contained in the report are not political at all. In actual fact, we do have testimonies where we assisted members of ZANU-PF who had been arrested on a partisan basis, also in Chinoy. We also offered them legal assistance, and it's also captured in the report. In terms of the Moreblessing Ali incident, our interest as well remains purely on a human rights basis. It's not fair for someone to be mutilated the way that she was, and that's the basis of our interest. We saw the ensuing violence involving both political parties. We castigated the violence equally. We sent letters to both parties calling for them to, reason with their members to stop the violence. We have seen losses in both parties, but our interest specifically remains on the human rights situation. We have people with their cars destroyed who were not part of the fracas that was happening. And that's our interest. So if we could confine our discussions to that particular aspect, it would also help even the viewers to understand the state of our country. So let's not cast aspersions. Let's take time to reflect on the report and to reflect on the overall human rights situation. I hear that there's a special meeting that is happening somewhere, which is, being purported to have led to all of these skirmishes that took place. Well, I personally did not know there was a meeting taking place. I'm hearing it now. So of interest to us, please, is the human rights situation, which is appalling. Our health sector, for instance, it's a silent genocide. People are dying every day. That's on record. That's not a secret. The state of our, food distribution and food aid in Zimbabwe, it's also on record that it's dismal. The Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food came here in 2019. And in a report, she said the human rights situation and the food situation in Zimbabwe is actually a man-made phenomenon. Those are the things that we'd want to reflect on as a nation. As patriotic Zimbabweans, what are we doing wrong? Where are we not getting it right? And how do we improve as we move forward to 2023?
Maybe can I just add there, Blessed, and say it's also important as a nation for us to acknowledge some of these things that are happening. Unless we are able to acknowledge, there is no way we can work towards solving the issues that are before us. And because we are talking about this situation well ahead of the elections, we are saying there is room for us to be able to prevent what Fortune was talking about as the August phenomenon.
But it's very important.
Yeah, I just wanted to test something, and I'll allow you to come in. Is it not very important, because as the PVO bill comes through, these are some of the fears and some of the reasons why probably this is coming through that you really need to address, that Comrade Nguni here raises, that you are taking a political side, and that this is not about human rights, it is about removing ZANU-PF from power through the use of NGO, and he uses countries that are funding you as an example.
Well, for lack of a better word, it's a preposterous allegation. As I have noted previously, we are non-partisan. When the Chamisa incident took place, we had an urgent Twitter space in which we had representations from all political parties. We had Tafatswa Mugwadi, if I'm not mistaken. speaking on behalf of ZANU-PF. We had the Honorable Mayor of Harare speaking on behalf of CCC. And what we actually came out with in that Twitter space discussion was that both political parties are not happy with the violence that took place. And there was an acknowledgement that things went out of hand from both political parties. Our role there was just to facilitate the discussion. That was our role. It was not a choreographed situation. There was no agenda at all. It was just an urgent meeting which was called for people to come, sit down and speak out. It is interesting that people would then allege that civil society organizations are getting funding from Western organizations and Western governments to topple the regime, which is actually doing well on its own to topple itself. So why would we then need that kind of input at all? It would also be interesting for you to note that if you look at the amount of funds and donations that come through from Western organizations and Western countries, almost 3/4 of them go through the government. But we have never raised an eyebrow, a finger to say the government is being Western sponsored in its discharge of its duties. We have independent commissions which are being funded. Why are you not raising the same issue that they are pursuing a regime change agenda? What's so out of this world that NGOs are doing it? We have journalists, we have doctors, we have a lot of people in this country who are receiving aid to pursue social justice issues. But then, my other colleagues will remain mum on those issues. So why is that so? Why are we having this, bias towards well-meaning civil society organizations? For the record, the forum has been here since 1998, when the food drives took place. And it did not come as a result of any political or politicking that could have been happening. And it was funded by people who were within here in Zimbabwe, who were funding the process of a proper documentation exercise of the violations and a proper lobby and advocacy initiative to make sure that those issues come in the public light. So really, to me, the allegation that there are Western organizations which are sponsoring NGOs, for a lack of a better word, is preposterous. And I hope I'm spelling that out well.
Thank you very much. First of all, I need my colleagues to understand that human rights as a policy itself is highly contested worldwide. What are human rights standards that the Americans stand for? What do other countries stand for? Americans are supposed to be the embodiment of real human rights worldwide. But their closest allies worldwide are some of the most despicable autocratic murderers who torture their citizens. Where there are no elections in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in Qatar, in this country, in that country, but they trade with them and behave as if everything is okay. It's contested. So it is important that there are Zimbabweans who say things against these NGOs because what they are talking about is contested. Let me come back to this issue. In this report here, I can tell you now, I haven't read it. Because
so how can you critique something you've not read?
I haven't read it. Mm-hmm. Listen to me. Just let me finish what I was going to say. I haven't read it. But I can swear to God, there is nothing to show that the MDC was involved in those riots in Nyatsime. In fact, I'm hearing my colleagues here talking about the Job Sikala, and there's nothing that they did wrong. I'm reading in the little that I've just seen now about fake abductions that are taking place here, the claiming of dead bodies, and she's telling me here, I attended the court case of Jamba, the bail hearing. I attended. He never said that he was not in love with that woman.
But actually, he did, and it's on record.
No. They knew each other. He didn't just murder her. He did not just murder her. And secondly, there is no proof that she was a member of CCC. But the other issue is this, that I need to say to all of them, is this. They have forced this government to put a stop to Zimbabwe Peace Project. There are some good things that they are doing. They have stopped this government to force them into stopping the Zimbabwe NGO Forum. But there are some good things that they are doing. For example, I know that when one of my friends were arrested by Mugabe, somebody's decided to help them to pay legal fees and things like that. That's good. But where they talk about voting rights, where they talk about a biased view towards human rights, where they want to accuse this government of doing things that they have not done. And to me, as far as I'm concerned, it is a political view. And because of that political view, I support the PVO bill. In fact, it does not go far enough. We are going to make representations to the government. We want the day that the president assents to this bill, organizations like Zimbabwe Peace Project, NGO Forum, Crisis Coalition must stop all their activities here. They must go and do them in Botswana and in South Africa, not in Zimbabwe, because these are bodies that have a political agenda, and they must do that in CCC openly, not masquerading as human rights abuses. What is written here does not represent all Zimbabwean citizens. It represents only those citizens who support CCC's rise to power.
Well, why wouldn't you leave them to operate if they are not supported by a number of people, and leave them to be in their small space if you say so that they have no support?
No. I just want to say something to you. Mm-hmm. The government that wins an election is allowed to create the environment that make laws that they want to make laws in terms of the mandate which they got from people. I want to address myself to what my sister said when she said that there were 27 amendments that should have gone back to the people. The Constitution allows certain changes that there must be a referendum first. The Constitution allows the government, without consulting the people, if they do it within the Constitution, to change the laws and make laws. The government, if they think that the Zimbabwe NGO Forum is a threat to the well-being of Zimbabwe, they have a right to make a law. And if the CCC wins the election, they also have a right to change the law and allow an organization like NGO Forum to operate.
But would that be a country?
That's what happens all over the world.
With due respect, my brother, we are guided by human rights principles that are in our constitution, the Zimbabwean constitution. The Bill of Rights in Chapter 4 is what guides us in terms of for us to be able to identify that this is a violation that has happened to a particular citizen. And we cannot look aside to say that we cannot address it because the government is going to say you are doing something wrong. We are going to stand with those whose rights are being violated. And we come with evidence in terms of those violations. It's unfortunate that you are critiquing and attacking a report that you have not read. We have not included the Moreblessing Ali issue in this report because this report is 2021.
Okay, let me just answer that one because it's very important. I opened up by saying that human rights are a contested thing. That's a fact. The Constitution allows anybody to do whatever they want to do, but if anybody is not happy, if the government is not happy with an aspect of the behavior of citizens of this country, they have a right to change it.
And what if the citizens are not happy with an aspect of the behavior?
They must wait for the next election.
For 5 years, they'll be suffering.
Well, let me tell you what's happening in America right now. The Supreme Court said this abortion bill must be put into place and many people are not happy. And Joe Biden said, yes, it will be on the ballot paper in November when we vote. Make sure you vote for people who will support abortion rights for women. That's how we change what we want to do. No other ways. If we don't like what the government is doing, we go to the next elections, we cast our votes, and then we remove that government. This government, it cannot be a government that hasn't got enough power to make laws. Certain laws, they must negotiate first with Britain and America. Certain laws, the British and American government must tell us, don't have this law here, it's not good for you, have this one here. These are guys who fought in a war of liberation. They are not going to accept that. And there are many Zimbabweans who don't support that. That a British government and American government can tell us what is good for us. We are going to make our own mistakes, our own destiny in our hands, and we are going to make laws that we want to make. If you don't like it, make sure you vote in the next elections and vote for the opposition. That is how democracies work.
Amazing.
Okay,
Sure.
yeah, so, yeah, I have to do a bit of lecturing here so that we improve our understanding of governance and democracy, isn't it? Yeah, so...
Without insulting anybody.
No, I'm not.
Because I'm not insulting.
So far,
No, I'm not.
we have not
I'm
insulted
I'm not.
anyone.
Yeah. So there is a principle called state sovereignty, which I think from the way you are speaking is where you are aligned to. Where a state is sovereign, it's more concerned about protecting the borders from the external influences and the external threats. But we have a more, principle called human security, which is what we base on. It seeks to pinpoint the person within the state and see if they are secure. And we mean secure in terms of what? Their freedom from want. Freedom to live in dignity. And this is what we are basing it on. So we are saying that one person who was assaulted or shot, what are we doing to protect that person? And this is where we are coming from. And if you look at the report itself, it's themed in terms of our Bill of Rights under Chapter 4. I'm just rehashing what Justina has said. So basically what we are saying, and I'm lamenting here, is all the issues that we've identified in this report. If you are going to come to our offices and sit us down, we will then open a dossier of all of these violations and say, this is what happened on this particular day. We have a robust verification process. We do not document anything unless we have talked to the person who was involved, either the victim or the perpetrator. So we are saying, in terms of this report, the information that we have, we can stand by it. We can stand by it. You also mentioned the issue to say, the westernization of the ideologies and things like that. We take our position from the position of Ubuntuism. It's us first as black people. And remember, this report was not written by a white person anyway. We don't have white people at the forum. We are the ones who wrote this report as Zimbabweans. And what drives us to write this report is our patriotism, our love for this country. We do these things at times without even funding that you talk of. We go in the streets, we start documenting, we write reports. And if you look at this report, there's no consultant who wrote this report. It was written by people who love their country, we want this country to improve. So when we put things into light, it's not a matter of us wanting to, cast a black cloth or something in terms of what's happening. It's a matter for us to start having genuine dialogue about what's happening in our country and how to improve it. And we are saying this is the starting point of that discussion. Let's discuss about the 4 cases of extrajudicial killings that we have and how we can capacitate our police force so that they are better able to protect the human person within the state. We fought our war of liberation to gain the sovereignty that we have. And now let's also fight a fight to protect the individual within the state, outside of everything else that we are discussing. So that's the intervention I just wanted to make.
Blessed, if I can chip in there, probably maybe find out the organizations under his banner, the work that they do. It will be interesting to note in terms of the issues of human rights that they picked up from 2021. And then also, for me, it's quite troubling that we find that all the time we speak about these issues, we are told to go and work elsewhere. Why are we being told to go and work elsewhere? We are Zimbabweans, and why should we be told to go and work in Botswana, work in South Africa? And one politician also said we must go and work in Ukraine. I'm not sure how that comes in when you are speaking about Zimbabweans. We are not coming from outside the country.
Can I just say something here?
Sure.
Well, you see, there are many good things that NGOs can do and have done. There are many good things. But because of the funding mechanism, some of the people who donate funds to some NGOs, their political positions which they've taken against the government is what informs the government position on NGOs. Now, when people say that going to work elsewhere, there are two reasons. The first reason is that it comes out that some NGOs think that this government, there are certain things that they must negotiate with the citizens before they make change laws.
But they represent the citizens.
No, hold on. That's not how a modern state is run. A modern state is run like this. If in Britain they don't like Brexit, they don't go back to the people, can we now change the law to put this thing here? They change the law because they've demanded. If citizens are not happy, they vote them out at the next elections. That is how a modern state is run. But in this country, you want before an election, the government must negotiate change to the Electoral Act with various political parties, not even the citizens, the various political parties. The government here can change electoral law without any reference to the opposition or to anybody else because they have the mandate to make the laws. Now, if they make laws that are not popular with members of the public, they will not vote for them in 2023. Then in 2023, they can change the laws. That is what is called constitutionalism, which I have seen quite a bit in here. That you must accept that if a court makes a decision, you might not like the decision, but you accept what it says. That's the constitution. That's what I'm reading there. And he's a lawyer. He probably would agree with that. You might not like what the judge has said, but if the Constitutional Court makes a final decision, you are supposed to abide by that. Not to selectively decide. Some laws we will accept, some will not accept. And it is that we have seen among our citizens that has forced this government to now address the issue of non-governmental organizations and how non-governmental organizations, the proliferation of new non-governmental organizations came together with the financing and funding and starting of MDCT and the way they coordinate their efforts. We have information the government has.
Who is, I mean, if you can share that information, who is funding?
People in the Western countries are the ones who fund most NGOs that are here. That's a fact.
But you
I'm not saying it.
You do appreciate that our government is mostly and heavily funded by the same people.
You can't make a comparison of an NGO and a government. When a government does something, they do it for everybody, regardless of their political parties. And if a government decides to go and get money from China for a developmental project here, if you were telling me that the money was coming through ZANU-PF, I would have a major problem with it.
But don't you think you have got, you are now contradicting yourself?
I'm not.
Because initially you said that Moreblessing Ali was given land by ZANU-PF and she built because she was assisted by ZANU-PF because she had a card.
No, the reason why I was making that...
You said that. Now you are now trying to separate government and ZANU-PF.
No. The reason why I said that, I was trying to show that the MDC, when somebody is dead...
Where did ZANU-PF get that land from?
No. The reason, can I explain why I say this? Mm-hmm. I said it because I was trying to show that this woman had nothing to do with Triple C because Triple C has no structures anywhere.
But ZANU-PF has land that it gave. This is what you said. So that's why I'm asking.
No. The cooperative got land from the council or from the government in Chitungwiza. Okay? Or from the government, whatever. But the reason why I gave you that point, I was trying to show you that they were now going around looking at morgues and mortuaries for dead bodies to say ZANU-PF has killed them. Even when they've killed people themselves, they'll say ZANU-PF killed that person to score political points.
I want us to just listen to this. This is a video that was taken in Gokwe, where, let's just listen. Let's just see.
Let me tell you.
Listen.
No, this is not a ZANU-PF meeting. These are actors. These are actors.
Let me just interrupt.
Can we just listen first?
A ZANU-PF meeting with 10 people? This is not a ZANU-PF meeting.
Sorry,
this is the fake actors thing. They're acting here so that you can take it out to the world. This is acting. Oh my God.
This is the last election against opposition. The election against opposition. Zvichaitika panapa ndozvinoratidza kuti vanhu tichabatana. Ende kana tabatana Mwari wosekerera. Nhamo yatiri kufungidzira kuti iri kutirwisa iyi Mwari upe. Because vanhu nemabatana makuita chinhu wani. Hamberi pane ZANU-PF nekubatana pasi mhandu. Mutungamiriri anogadzwa naMwari. We have been given our president from God. Takapiwa president naMwari. Emerson Mnangagwa munangava. Takatarisa zvese zvakaitika izvozvo mukafunga kuti zviri nyore, but it was successful. Zvakabudirira because Mwari
Don't waste our time listening. This is an actor who's been saying, told what to say so that they can take it around the world. This is nothing. It's not a ZANU-PF meeting. They have no scarves. There's nothing here. There's nothing. And a ZANU-PF meeting in a rural area of 10 people. Give me a break, man.
Okay,
ZANU-PF meeting with 10 people. Give me a break.
I want us to.
This is not true.
I want us to discuss this. Actually, I took this down from the Twitter handle that is owned by President Emerson Mnangagwa's spokesperson, George Charamba. He posted it.
To say what?
And it has been circulating. So what I'm asking us to discuss is that with these statements, as we go into 2023, what are we likely to see? I'll start with you.
Blessed, this is not new. We have had these situations in previous elections, even going back to the Mugabe era, where people were being told that you feign illiteracy. We have had people being assisted to vote. So this is not new. It has been going on for a while now. Even in 2018, there were people that we also recorded who were made to be assisted so that they would guarantee their security. Because what we are also seeing in the aftermath of the by-election is that there are a lot of attacks against those who are suspected to be politically incorrect.
First of all, I want to tell you very clearly, these are actors. We've gone back to the days when even NGOs also go in to look for dead bodies and people to lay ZANU-PF beating up people. There is no ZANU-PF meeting in a rural area with 10 people. It's nonsense. Those people even got scarves, they even got t-shirts. The guy could not see his face. He probably is no longer in the country after he made that he was paid off by some NGO, I suspect. That is not a ZANU-PF meeting with 10 people in Gokwe. There's no ZANU-PF.
Those are the ones who went on their own accord, because we are aware some of them are forced to go to these meetings.
Can you allow me to speak? Because when you were speaking, I allowed you to speak. This is a fake meeting that has been done. In the last 4, 5, 10 years ago, we would get somebody claiming with a video saying that we are going to kill all the white people, we're going to kill all the women in this country. Then they send it to BBC. We are sick of this. That is the reason why this government has to be bold and curtail the activities of all NGOs that support the agenda. I told you the bill is not correct right now. We must go a step further to stop this kind of nonsense. That you can go there and lie that ZANU-PF, a meeting, he was given an order. This idiot here, who's a small boy, that he attended the meeting with Mnangagwa, where he was being told that you do this, you do this. Yeah, that's nonsense. I don't know how anybody can believe that kind of nonsense. That ZANU-PF would go. The ZANU-PF is smarter than that. If they want to intimidate people, they don't have to do it like that.
How would they do it?
I don't know how they would do it, but they were smarter, not like this.
Okay, yeah. So there is what we call constitutional amendments, where you make changes that are outraviers of the Constitution. That still makes them...
We can come back to that, but I want us to discuss this.
I was getting there. Okay, so now that you have said it, hate speech has been a problem. And hate speech, it doesn't take you 20 minutes to go online and see that there's a lot of hate speech going on. But we don't understand the power that is there in communication. Communication either exacerbates a conflict or it curtails a conflict. In previous years, we authored a report called The Language of Hate, where we were drawing contrasts between statements that are said and then the resulting effect of what that statement then does. This was the second edition of that report. The first one we did in 2008, and this one we did it in 2021. So what we then realized is that there's a direct correlation between what is said by social influencers, by people in power, and then what follows up in terms of actions in communities. So if someone then says, for instance, NGOs are cockroaches and we have to crush them. When you go into a community as an NGO, even if you want to give people food, people are not going to take that food. And we have seen this happening as we are trying to implement. You go into a community and say, we are here to teach about peace and reconciliation. And people will say, no, you guys are here to fan divisions amongst us and we are not going to accept what you are saying. But remember, our point of departure is that we love this country and we want it to improve. So when we then have that situation where such dangerous words are said and no one is reprimanded, and at this point we are anticipating that we are assuming that it's a true video, because for us to then go and say it's not a true video when we have evidence of someone wearing regalia speaking, if you used to do divinity like me, there was a phrase egunzi ko ama Yahweh. It was one of the tests of a true prophet. That says the Lord. He has just used that.
So what I should do, I must go and say, Chamisa, we are going to kill everybody here, then start taking it around here when he has not said so. Do you really believe that this guy was speaking there at a meeting with Mnangagwa, where he was given an order to do what he was doing? Do you really believe that? No, how can you people believe that?
To us, the argument is not whether he really had the discussion.
That's what he's saying.
To us,
how do you know he's a ZANU-PF member? But he's pulling regalia.
The point for us is to say, we have someone who's wearing the clothes of the party, who is fomenting violence through hate speech. If he is not a member of the party, it's incumbent on the party to prove that this person is not.
ZANU scouts used to go and kill people dressed as gorillas. They go and massacre a village. Then they say, the Catholic Justice for Peace goes there and says...
Comrade, can I just ask you a small question? Why is it that if something is done by the party that you support and you don't like it, it has to be fake? But if it's done by the party that you don't support, it is true.
I haven't told you there's anything I like that ZANU-PF has done. You are now saying, so I haven't said anything I like what ZANU-PF has done. I have many grievances against what ZANU-PF is doing. I have plenty.
You just said in your statement that we don't know this, he's not ours. It means that you are ZANU-PF. This is what you just said.
No, can I just correct it?
Before I ask that question.
We know that there are people out there who masquerade. This one here is being used to attack ZANU-PF, says ZANU-PF is doing this. And this guy, people don't know, will not ask, did this guy have a meeting with Mnangagwa as he claims there? No, when he was told this.
The reason why I asked you this question, Comrade Nguni, is that you castigated this report. And immediately you said you have never read it.
No.
But in your view, you didn't even need any evidence whatsoever, any reading of this report before you could castigate it. On this video, you didn't even need to verify whether it's true or false before you then said it's false. So
I heard what he was saying. I heard him claiming that he had a meeting with the president. I heard he said that.
No, he didn't say. He said he received
an order.
Yes,
but
and he signed. So that means that
the president signed. So, do you really believe Mnangagwa would sign a document, go and kill and beat up people? For God's sake, man! What's wrong with you people? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
My worry is, you are a leader of an NGO, isn't it? Yes. And we have a leader of an NGO who is clearly partisan, isn't it? You have mentioned countless times that we in ZANU-PF, we in ZANU-PF. And this is the difference between us and the institutions you represent, because we are non-partisan. We do not represent the principles of any political party. And as I have said, we have documented evidence where we have assisted people from ZANU-PF, your party that you represent.
I confirm, I agree with that.
We have incidences where we also represent people from CCC, MDC Alliance, Twaka's Republican Party. We have those things documented in there.
And those who are not affiliated.
Exactly. But then my worry is, isn't this why people are now saying NGOs are politicized? Because of establishments such as yours, which are...
Can I make? I'm an honest person, okay? I am not. I don't know. You know what? I'm an honest person. When I vote, I go and vote for ZANU-PF, but that does not mean I don't have any brains to see what is good and what is bad. I have. If you decide that okay, we are going to be silent NGO members of CCC, that's your business. That's up to you. The truth of the matter here is very simple. It is not possible for Mnangagwa to sign what this guy is alleging that he signed. It is not possible that he can sign a document. And everybody here knows that this is a false thing. These are called what is called false flag operations. They used to happen with the previous Seru Scouts, when they used to kill people in the name of the war veterans, and this is happening now. And that is what is making us say that the NGOs, including this that I hear, are partisan as far as we are concerned, because human rights is a disputed territory. There is
according to our Bill of Rights, is not disputed.
No, according to some people in Zimbabwe. I'm not talking about according to the law.
Yeah.
Legal. I'm not saying that you are illegal. According to the law, it is. There are some Zimbabweans like me who think that you are regime change agents. You are agents of imperialism, and there are many people in ZANU-PF who believe that. That's why ZANU-PF is going to change the law to make sure that they curtail your activity.
Well, Dara, I wanted to talk a bit about the implications of the PVO bill, so that his partners in ZANU-PF also understand what it means. So if you look at the work, we have done an audit of what NGOs are doing in Zimbabwe. And I'm not sure if the lawmakers who are planning to change that law have done so. If you look at the humanitarian sector, and the comments that I was saying about the special rapporteur on the right to food, one of their findings is that 75% of people in rural areas are benefiting food from NGOs, international NGOs and local NGOs. Let's talk about the economic impact of the PVO bill. The tax that is coming through as a result of NGOs who are operating here, the assistance that people are getting. All of us, I think, within the forum, when Cyclone Idai happened, we all went there. And we took funds from our own salaries to go and assist people who were suffering in terms of Cyclone Idai. And this is something that people are not seeing in terms of how the community itself, the person on the ground, Rudo, how she's going to be affected by the PVO bill.
Listen, this is very important, and we must take advantage of the fact that we are here today to hear the other side of the story. I'm glad to hear what you're saying. We're glad to hear what you're saying, and we are going to have an intellectual discussion. We are not against NGOs that give food wide. The moment you start talking about disputed political positions in your discourse, you have a problem with politicians. And politicians, when they don't like something, they legislate.
Okay, so this is
everything that you do with helping the people is fine. But the moment there is a link between what you are doing to those people with supporting CCC in what you are doing, then we have a problem.
So are you in your work intentionally, going out to aggrandize the political establishment?
Not at all. I think for us, we would be very happy if the rights of our citizens are not violated. The reason why we spring to action is because we recognize that citizens are not only vulnerable, but in most cases are also isolated. So we come in that situation in terms of saying to them, when a situation is like this, it means your rights have been violated. Because they come and report. They are coming to us to report, but they know the police are there. The reason why they are not going to the police to report is because there is a trust deficit with that institution that's actually supposed to be the main human rights defender. But I think listening to my brother here, I'm actually very disappointed. But I think it has helped because it seems that he has brought out the organizations that are being targeted. Because he said ZPP, he said NGO Forum, crisis is not even here, but he mentioned crisis. So we are now recognizing that maybe the PVO amendment bill has actually been made for specific organizations. And it's a sad state of affairs if it is.
But do you think they're not justified because political parties in their existence are made to, to consolidate political power, to remain in political power? And if they think that you are threatening their existence or they remain in political power, do you think they're not justified to come after you?
Threatening how? By stating that the rights of citizens are being violated. The good thing to do is not to violate those rights. And we will not have any conversations with government or the ruling party as long as the rights of citizens are not violated. Because there is no line of communication from the citizens for them to be able to speak out about these violations. So if there are no violations, we have no issue. And we will report it as such to say that the environment is conducive for whatever is taking place. We are on record speaking about the run-up to the 2018 elections. We are an organization that monitors and documents human rights abuses. But in the run-up to that election, we could not even tell we were going to an election. So it's actually possible to be done for violations to go down.
Yeah.
And they will not feel any threat from us. But we are not going to sit back and look at people having their rights violated.
Can I just say, something very important?
If Nelson Chamisa was to wake up president of this country, would you still do this way?
Of course you'll say yes. Of course you'll say yes. Don't even ask him.
Yeah. Let me tell you this. I mentioned previously that when the new dispensation came, it was rosy for a bit. We all had nothing to do in the offices. There were no violations taking place. Yes, she said in the run-up to the 2018 elections.
And we reported it as such.
We reported it as it is.
I want to explain.
We reported it. There were no violations. We were all caught unaware when the violence took place on the 1st of August. Because we're all, we're all rallying behind. Because we thought our nation was at that particular point where things have changed. But, let's look at this from a factual perspective. If you are in power and you are worried about consolidation of power, advice is it's more expensive for you to consolidate power through tightening bolts. There's a statement that as much as you try to tighten, you will also be causing yourself pain as you are twisting your wrist. If you are tightening a bolt, the more you try to tighten, the more effort you are putting in and the more resources you are using. It would be easier if the government would not sponsor such bills, but then just make sure that the human rights situation is okay. And we are all left, hamstrung and nothing to do. And if we are really pursuing a regime change agenda, it would be clear that these people are fomenting funny statements to foment a regime change agenda.
Can I just say something?
I want us to just wrap up our... Yes,
can I just say something here? I say that we must learn from each other. You must talk to ZANU-PF, talk to CCC, talk to everybody. I do. The reason why things were rosy in the Second Republic was because people in the opposition thought Mnangagwa was going to be easy meat. Now ZANU-PF had removed Mugabe, the strong man. Now we could beat them at the 2018 elections. So they didn't provoke ZANU-PF into any violence. That's my view. That's not a ZANU-PF view, that's my view. But now I want to come back to this point here. In the 2000 elections, the first election that MDC took part in Mat North and Mat South, the MDC candidates were the people who were giving food aid to people. The MDC candidates were working for some NGOs which was giving food to the people. We have information that for the last 12 months, USAID has put in $300 million into a program of setting up new NGOs which are operating at local areas. And that's when we hear that CCC saying we are making inroads in the rural areas. So they are forcing us because we've
to close those.
No. Very soon you will hear. We are going to we are going to ask the government to tighten the PVO. We want any new NGOs that are operating in those areas, in the rural areas. Because the rural area, there's something very, very important. Do you believe, I wanted them to help me, but you can also educate me. Do you believe that urban voters and rural voters are being treated in an equal matter? For example, in the rural areas, rural people have to go 10 kilometers to a polling station. I have not heard one NGO complaining about that. Whereas in Highfields, you can go for 2 minutes, you are there at a polling station. So what really happens here is that in the urban areas, the democracy that we are being forced, that even ZANU-PF was doing, we are going to put a stop to it, we're going to go to court to challenge it, is that in the rural areas, people have to go 10 kilometers to a voting station. In the urban areas, they just walk next door and they put in a ballot. In Highfield West, there are 40,000 voters. In an area which is, say, 1,000 square meters or whatever it is, okay? Then there are 2 constituencies. In the rural areas, there's a village here with 150 people, 200 there, and the MP can't go to all the places. We believe that these are issues that must be addressed. So we are going to go, this NGO, we are going to go to court, constitutional court, and say the distance to a polling station should be the same for urban areas and for rural voters, meaning every village must have a polling station, so that we enhance democracy and everybody is an opportunity to go and vote. And I want you to watch how many people are going to say, no, we can't do that. Because these NGOs that you have here don't really care about real democracy.
But you win, you as ZANU-PF, you win in the rural areas a lot.
No.
No. But anyway, let us...
can I just finish the sentence?
We've had an amazing discussion, and as you say, we should learn from each other. So what I will do is I will allow each and every one of you to have their closing submissions. I'll start with you, Fortune.
Well, thank you so much for the platform and the opportunity to speak about the state of human rights in 2021. And I will sum up by summarizing some of the recommendations that we made in the report. Most of these recommendations, for instance, can be done without any financial implications on the state and without any financial ramifications on civil society and citizens as well. So we are calling upon the government and responsible authorities to take note and investigate reported human rights violations. We have a dossier of violations that we constantly share with our sister organizations, the independent commissions, and they also require assistance in terms of funding for them to be capacitated so that they are able to discharge their constitutional mandates fully. We also recommend that some of the international conventions of interest, such as the International Convention Against Torture, also be ratified and domesticated. This will also ensure that we are more protected in the country, and it will also help the human rights situation. We also have a provision, Section 2110 in the Constitution, which speaks of an independent complaints handling commission that is supposed to investigate complaints against our armed forces. And we also then call upon the government to expedite the process of putting that particular mechanism in place. And for our viewers, the report is online on our website, and I'm sure the technical team are going to put a link in the description for you to also interface with the report and go through it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for over to you.
I hope that in this year, people will learn to be very honest, to make sure that they don't have contrived human rights abuses which don't exist. And more importantly, this coming year, we want to make sure that the rights of the rural people to access a voting station should be the same as the rights of urban dwellers to access information. So we are going to go to court to ask the government to put in 35,000 new polling stations in all the rural areas, so that people wake up, they walk a minute to a polling station, they also have a right to vote. We are going to do that this year. Because we want to make sure that everybody understands that, and we are going to urge government to make sure that they don't interfere with the core business of NGOs. If the NGOs are to help the people and to bring them to order, when they stray from the core values and start doing advocacy work for political purposes. Thank you.
Okay, I think I want to talk about the distribution of food and other aid. We at the highest level, we are told that no Zimbabwean is going to go hungry. But the situation on the ground is totally different. And if this was not known, we are then telling you that there is partisan distribution of food and other aid. And we propose that humanitarian standards need to be followed when food is being distributed, so that we do not have our people using their tummy to vote. They need to be able to exercise their political rights and enjoy those rights because they are guaranteed by the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I just want to read the conclusion of the State of Human Rights report in Zimbabwe, just part of it. It says the report depicts a very sad picture of the state of human rights in Zimbabwe. There has not been any meaningful action by the government to ameliorate the plight of citizens as the socio-economic situation continued to implode. Instead of coalescing efforts around the common enemy of the COVID-19 pandemic, the government decided to channel its energy and resources towards fighting civil society and HRDs, who ideally should be partners for sustainable development. Now, we can never all agree. And we cannot have a country or a nation of yes men. People will disagree. And because we disagree, we do not become enemies. This nation has been built on the blood of our forefathers, on the blood of our mothers and sisters, so that we have the right to one man, one vote. We have the freedom of conscience, the freedom to question those in power, the freedom to demand accountability and transparency, and the freedom to share our ideas. Only then can we be a better nation. This is why we have this, the free talk, to allow everybody to share their ideas for one common good, to build our nation Zimbabwe for a better people. Democracy survives when different ideas are brought to the level, to the fore. We can't be, and we are not, a one-party state. Let us look after and let us look for each and one another so that we are better people in Zimbabwe. Now, this is me, your host, Dara Blessed Mtlanga, on this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation. Until next time, thank you for joining us. Thank you to my amazing guests.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.